Hello, CinSanity, and welcome to this episode of our podcast. Today we have Josh Sparks from Midwest Whitetail on. A lot of people like to ask him about his background in video production, but that's what I do for a living, so what we're going to do is jump straight into the hunting, boys and girls. We're going to talk about permission-based hunting, scouting from afar, and more. So what do you say we get this thing started? I'm not going to give you a spiel of a commercial on this podcast because I hate it when other people do it, so let's keep it simple. For all your fall food plot needs, our friends over at Techamati have given us a 10% discount code for you all to use. It is Techamati10. That's T-E-C-O-M-A-T-E 10. Go look it up and get whatever fall food plot products you need. I promise you won't be disappointed. Oh, man, Zach, this just works out perfect. Okay, look at the deer over Josh's shoulder. All right, Josh, let me ask you something. The deer that's over Zach's shoulder, how long do you think those tines are there on his right side?
Is the middle one a brow?
Yes.
13 on the brow.
Okay, what about the 2 and the 3?
Am I wrong on the brow?
We're not gonna tell you till the end.
I'm gonna guess the G2 is longer than one would guess. I'm gonna go 14.
It's only like
I'm also,
It's only like 10 and a half, 11.
Okay, well then I was wrong. Yeah, because like I was measuring, so like his left or his left G2 is 14 and a half. So I was trying to proportion that. No, yeah. 11, 12 makes more sense.
Yeah, it's just it's also the angle. His rack kind of like leans back a little bit.
Yeah, I just lost all my credibility for this podcast. So if you guys wanna...
Well, no, the reason we're bringing it up is
it's
because
not recorded. So.
Oh, it's recorded. It's always recorded.
Oh, okay. All right.
Josh should know better than anybody. It's always recorded.
That's right.
Yeah.
The reason I asked is because I was asking him before, and I was like, you know what? No one really ever talks about that. Like, how many guys have buddies that totally misjudge deer and call like a 140 or 170 just because the angle the deer's head is at in a trail camera photo?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I mean, what is he? He's got I guess I can't see the left side, but see high 50s, low 60s with beam length.
Since we're on that topic, let's just start right out of the gates. You got any advice for people on kind of field judging deer based on trail camera pictures?
Shoot what makes you happy is the correct answer. But
Amen.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm in that, I guess, situation right now where it's like the biggest deer I have is the one that I don't want to kill. Yeah. I think that depends property to property, state to state. As far as like inches go, I mean, if that's the question, I mean, I think that a great place to start is with deer you have scored or officially scored, and then you can start to kind of proportionally judge from there. The trickiest part about trail cam photos is, number one, is it an original? Because everybody loves to take that little slight tilt, with their phone. If you take it flat and then you just go like this,
it makes
all of a sudden it grows 20 inches. And then you start to see G2s and G3s that are longer than legs on a deer. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that, but you can always tell the tilt is there when the feet are so short.
It's a dwarf deer, dude. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a common occurrence, okay? At least in Kentucky it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incest and everything.
Yeah. No, score of deer is awesome. I mean, I talk to guys about this often. It's like, don't get me wrong, I'd rather shoot a bigger deer versus not. But for me, I'm stupid and try to chase one deer a year. And that usually just leads to pain, not good things, and misery. But when it comes together, then it's like super exciting.
Yeah, Graham got to witness me do that firsthand for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Just kicking your own tail, spinning in circles.
That's what you learn the most on them, though, right?
Oh, I was about to say, that's like the one thing. Like, if I had to pick one thing in my hunting career that made it all click, it's this deer over my shoulder, and I hunted him for 4 years. That 4-year experience taught me more than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, you start to think, as cliche as it sounds, you start to think like the buck you're hunting, not the hunter. And then things start to make more sense. You're more able to anticipate what he's doing, and it'll help you learn the property the way he sees it, not the way you do, So that's cool. I hope we get to talk about that because that's a giant.
Yeah, that one was interesting. Cat. So, well, all right, while we're on hot topics, let's just do this because this will be fun to get everyone warmed up. Hot topics we've been roasted on recently on social media. Cedars, keep them or get rid of them.
Hunting permission farms doesn't really make a difference to me. But I don't know. I mean, I think within anything in, good quantity is a positive, right? Like some of the best farms I've ever hunted have diversity. There's certainly properties I've hunted where cedars overtook. I think that's probably the biggest downside to a property that gets cedars. Typically, it can compound very, very quickly, shade out a lot of other things. But, I mean, at the end of the day, some of my best shed hunting, some of my best properties that held deer all times of the year had a lot of different diversity that included cedars. So I certainly wouldn't say get rid of them. Now,
okay, how about log the mature ones? That's what we did. We logged the mature ones. We still have cedars, but they're ones that a logger's not going to get any value out of, so they leave it there. Or it's along an edge or a draw where it didn't make sense to take it out for drainage purposes or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Logging is a very foreign thing to me. I mean, that's not something you hear about in Iowa very much. You go down to Alabama, Mississippi, and it's like every decision is based around timber harvest and, cuts here and there. But yeah, I think like anything, I mean, if you can, for example, we were just talking about, if you have enough left over that you still have a diversity in your habitat, I think that take it out if it makes sense. At the same time though, like, your farm better than anybody. I don't know how much a cedar tree's worth. So, I mean,
it's not worth a lot. Let's just say that.
Yeah. So, I mean, might as well go cut it down and go throw it in your pond and put some structure in there for your fish.
Yeah. It's a rat's nest now. I'll tell you this. Our tick population is a booming, cuz.
Yeah. Turkey season was miserable. It's amazing. I shouldn't say it's amazing that I didn't get it. Who knows? I probably do have Lyme disease, but ticks this spring were horrible. I mean, it was miserable.
Yeah.
I think I've had a tick on me every time I've gone to the farm this year.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, I look like right now, I don't know if you guys have chiggers where you're at.
Yeah.
Man, if I wear shorts, it is a embarrassing sight. I mean, I look like I got some problems. I mean, it was actually embarrassing. Went to golf for the first time at the Buckmasters put on a golf event for raising money for a nonprofit that they work with in Alabama. It's the first time I've ever golfed in my life. And not only was that embarrassing showing up like a PGA caliber course, having never swung a golf club, but then I'm wearing shorts for the first time in 10 months, look white as a ghost, and my legs are just bit to all get out. I mean, I look like I got chicken pox right now because I just got crushed with chiggers last time I went out. So that was a fun experience.
I was at the farm. I got it, and I knew I was going to get it because I was wearing shorts in the evening, like laying in the grass, helping my daughters shoot their bows. I'm like, I'm going to get ate up, but it's for the kids. It's okay.
It's for the kids.
Yeah, I need to put the clear nail polish back in stock because that is the fastest way to help that I've found with helping the itchiness right off the rip. I don't know if you guys have ever used that before, but
yeah. And the other thing, we've had luck with it. I don't know if it's an old wives' tale, but use dryer sheets in your pockets. It'll help prevent them.
I'm down to try anything when it comes to those things. So
start saving your dryer sheets. It's got to be used ones though.
Love it. What do you guys want to talk about today?
I don't know. What do you want to talk about? What's Graham want to talk about?
Yeah.
Y'all give me about 5 more minutes. I'm still waking up from that flight getting in late last night.
That's what I figured. That's why I asked what you wanted to talk about. What are you in Arizona?
Travel days aren't. Yeah, night games and travel days shouldn't be a thing.
Yeah.
Man.
Where'd you guys come home from?
We're actually in Arizona. We were playing the Angels, so now we got the D-backs out here. So
gotcha. I think maybe you could stop by and do a quick mule deer hunt while you're out there. That'd be pretty cool.
I wish. That'd be sick.
I just want to start by saying I appreciate you guys having me on. Excited to talk hunting. It's a fun time of year right now. I mean, right on the cusp, right? Like we're launching our Chasing November series, and so it takes up every single day, beginning to end, and it's like all of a sudden we'll blink, it'll be over. First cold front arrives, velvet strips, and all of a sudden we're right back to it. So I think we had talked about, Clayton, permission properties and
yeah. Well, since you brought up Chasing November, I said we weren't going to talk about it, but just out of curiosity, you can make a like 2-sentence answer. How long does it take y'all to put that thing together post-production wise, and how many episodes is your goal each year?
Yeah, so that starts right after deer season ends. So like in 2024, we wrap up January 11th. Missouri's, I think, the 15th, and so it starts right after then, starting the outline process, and then Gavin's working on it from then till now. He's obviously doing more than just that throughout that time frame, but it's 24 episodes that compiles, I don't know, roughly between 75 to 100 people, their stories, and just puts it in a chronological order. So we're getting better at refining things ahead of time, if that makes sense. There's a lot less new versions of each episode, and more importantly, we're picking up on how to do things in the fall to make it a little bit easier on the production side. But every single year it seems like we come down to the wire of getting the thing done. But we're also just super, I don't know, if you talk to Gavin and me and myself, we're never really happy with how it came out. As long as everybody else is, that's good, but we're always seeing what can be improved. And so far it seems like folks are enjoying it. We released probably what's my favorite episode of the series last night. Mike had just a hunt that we all wish we could go on. I mean, he had a 171-inch giant just come right to the base of his tree. It's just insane. Using a grunt call on October 18th, I think is what it was. And
wow.
Curiosity. The October lull.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Like when I started with Chasing November, so just a really short background. When the hunting public was created, Bill called me. I dropped out of school basically the same day to take the job. And I went from Chasing November being my most favorite show to watch and an excitement for hunting season to responsible for it the next year, which was like one of the most terrifying moments of my adult life because I'm like totally unprepared at that point to do it. But my point where I'm going at this off your comment is like back then, October had like 1 or 2 episodes, and as you get now 10 years later through the series, we don't get to November until episode 9 this year. And it just is a testament to how much hunting strategy has changed. The October lull was always looked at as it's like a fact. Like, I'm not going to go into my best spots. Well, now there's so much information out there to, for everybody to be able to prepare for those shots, and that was something that we were talking about, like the education to be able to carve out the right, scenario. Doesn't matter what state you're in, cold fronts are a gift. And if you know how to utilize them, they can deliver on the topic of hunting one deer, that's your best chance. The rut's awesome, but it's also the most frustrating time to hunt a single deer.
Unpredictable.
Yeah.
Most unpredictable time in the whole season.
Yeah. You get in the middle of October, you give me a cold front in the right oak tree, you can kill him.
Yeah. And that was just, we were just like sitting there like, how many episodes is this, man? And we're like, 9. That's crazy. Just October's a fun, never overlook it. I know everybody saves up vacation days for the rut, which don't get me wrong, I think it's a lot of fun, but paying attention to the weather and being able to take vacation as needed is also very productive.
Yes, it is. Before I had kids, I live in Florida. Our farm's in Kentucky. Before I had kids, I'd go up to Kentucky like October 15th, and I wouldn't come home till Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
All my wife's friends would be like, aren't you worried about him being up there by himself for that long? She's like, that idiot's not leaving the cabin.
I love it. Yeah.
It's like, I'm not going out to the bar. I'm waiting for a cold front, dude. I'm sitting right here.
Yeah. Kentucky, I've never been there. Driven through it a few times, but, there's obviously plenty of reasons to go. You guys got the early season. I mean, it as top quality of any deer. I don't necessarily know that that's statewide or if there's certain pockets, but you always see,
It's kind of statewide, kind of pocket oriented. I think it's like any good state. Like Iowa's got some pockets that probably aren't as good, but within like that, there's like some micro pockets where it's like not heard of, and there's like, a little bit of a section that's got giants in it. And then you got larger sections that have giant deer in Kentucky. Zach hunts Kentucky. Graham obviously hunts Kentucky. He owns a farm with us, but Zach hunts Kentucky too. He can probably attest to that.
Yeah.
Them river bucks, man, they get a lot bigger near that water.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Hunting near the river is a game changer up there.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing in Iowa. I mean, you talk about a place that you just never know what's going to happen. River bottom and always seems to hold that a little bit stronger than the big woods.
Yeah, you show me a river bottom, I'll show you a big buck.
I came up to Iowa to go duck hunting back in 2000. I think it was during COVID, during 2020. And me and my buddy had encountered with 2 bucks when we were out there on public land duck hunting. And I didn't see the first one, but my buddy did. And he was like, that had to be at least 170-inch whitetail, because he said he got like right in its face. This is mid-November. I mean, he got right up in this thing's face. And so he got a good look at him. And then when we were driving back to Alabama, we were going past some like duck sanctuary. It was just like a duck hunting only preserve. You could see the blind out in the middle of the lake from the highway. And I mean, it was like a postcard picture, man. There was just a big body deer right at the head of the pond, and he just lifted his head up, and I mean, he just had stuff going everywhere. I mean, it took a lot for me and my buddy to not just slam on the brakes and go back and just take a picture of the deer.
Yeah. Iowa's a special place to live. I mean, I try to enter every fall appreciating it. I mean, there's a lot of things we could go down the list of, but I mean, we're very lucky with the way our seasons are structured. It's a very popular topic right now, legislations and 1 buck state versus 2 buck states, all these different changes across the country that people want to see. But, when it comes down to it, Iowa is what it is because of our season structures. And that's what's allowed us to get an age structure like we have. And I mean, we're reminded of it every year. Somebody kills just something that only exists in a few places. I think every place out there has the opportunity for that, but I hope that everybody gets the chance to hunt Iowa at least one time. And like you mentioned, I mean, there's been many seasons where I felt like my best chance to kill a big deer was on public land. Like going back to that management, or season structure, like as I'm sure you guys know, it's not easy to get a tag in Iowa, and I'm a little bit hypocritical because I love going to other states and I love that it's hard to come here, because it really does allow for that. Because we have, relatively speaking, not that much public land when it comes to the acre numbers, but the quality of it. I mean, there are very few places in the state that I feel like if you went, you're in the game for something good, something older. You know what I mean? And the older deer you have and more of them, the chances are probably that you're gonna have a bigger deer. Minus the northwest quadrant of the state, which right now is like basically no doe tags. I mean, they hardly have a deer population. Rebounding pretty well from EHD the last 2 years. And I think that if somebody's got a tag this year, they should be in for some really good hunting.
Yeah. What part of the state are you in?
I'm in Des Moines. I live in West Des Moines specifically. I mean, smack dab in the center. Definitely don't have the anticipation that I want to live in town for the rest of my life, but I am I'm 5 minutes away from going east and west on 80, and I can go north and south on 35. Airport's 20 minutes away.
Yeah.
And so I'm able to hit quite a few different pieces of the state pretty quickly. Obviously have a bit more time to hunt and more flexibility of how I can get my work done probably than most folks. About to acquire Starlink, which will probably lead to the demise of my relationship because I won't be home. I mean, right now my limitations is internet, as stupid as that sounds, but it's just the truth. Like I need to be connected to do our job. But once I can get that thing, all limitations are gone.
Yeah. So my sister-in-law, their family has like 180 acres, I think like an hour and a half north of Des Moines. I was like, for the longest time, I don't know why I didn't think about it. I wasn't putting in for tags, but now I think I've got like 3 or 4 points built up. I'm like, all right, at some point I'm gonna have to get up there so I can at least see what's there.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know what it takes point-wise in that zone. And I couldn't tell you what zone it is. I mean, but southern Iowa is just everybody's allure, right? They think about all those South 2 counties, and that's where right now it's like 6 points before you can get drawn with a bow tag. A little bit different if you're going for late muzzleloader tag, but very few people are talking about the north central quadrant or northeast quadrant, which, if you ask me, there's just as good of quality of deer hunting if you've got the spots. I think that Southern Iowa was different from the standpoint that there's a lot less people. You have a lot more rolling country, so development hasn't hit it as much. And frankly, it's a lot of broken up, farm ground, and you're not.
It's beautiful country too.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel like Iowa, right? And it's just a lot of fun to hunt because pinch points exist in abundance. It's there's a lot of predictability compared to what I think a lot of guys face in bigger woods or even huge sections of river bottom. I mean, Graham, you talked about like where you guys were duck hunting and seeing giants. I mean, they're there. Iowa's got such diverse habitat in so many different places of the state. It's like you can visit 4 states in one. Northeast Iowa, people probably don't want me even saying that, but like I would never overlook hunting Northeast Iowa if I was going on a public land trip. In fact, it's probably what I would prioritize. It's huge woods, but the age on the deer up there is insane. I mean, some of my best friends hunt up there, and they rival or put to shame many of the places I get to, see what Southern Iowa's creating. So,
yeah, we got 350 acres, 330 of it's timber.
Yeah.
So, like, I remember the first time I went to hunt Illinois, I was like, dude, this is like shooting fish in a barrel compared to what I'm used to. All timber, big hills. They can hide.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of what we were talking about in the beginning there. It's like, hunting one buck. I mean, the more experience you get hunting in different terrain, I think is the better you can show up and be in the game, because it's just a different thought process of ultimately what they're trying to do, which is live, right? Big woods were all I grew up hunting, and that's relative in theory with Iowa, but the section that I hunted, it's kind of a strange thing. It's not public land. Basically, like X amount of people have shares in the place, and the section that we hunted was like 1,200 acres of contiguous timber. There's no fields, but it's technically like 35,000 acres is what everybody has access to, but people were in their own little zones. But growing up, that's all we hunted was the woods. You had to enter from, the east side. There's one gravel road, and then, the way I used to look at things was just different on a map. Can't tell you how many times growing up we'd spook deer walking in here, and that was where Midwest whitetail really became influential. It was just learning about what are we doing wrong, and eventually you start to figure out, how you access in the morning, very different than how you exit. All these different things that the woods really determined ahead of time. And since then, I've not done very much of it. Some of the public land I hunt is big woods. Like Stevens State Forest is, I don't even know how many contiguous acres of timber, but it's got to be pushing some of the biggest in Iowa. I feel like you could hunt for the next 10 years in different spots in that piece. But it's a lot of fun. I mean, it gets your mind rolling anyway.
Yeah.
And Josh, you talking about entering and exiting, it's something we always have a game plan for and try to decide like our best routes and stuff. I mean, what are the kind of things that you look for? Is it more so of something that you figure out over time after hunting a piece a couple times, walking in and out of, or is it something that you just try to take the aerial view like on your computer on Onyx and just try to find the best route there?
Yeah, I think that if I'm, let's just hypothetically say as a piece of public land, I try to eliminate first, where do I not want to hunt? I mean, I think that sounds very simplistic, but, when I'm trying to break down a lot of ground, I'm focused on, specifically like how I used to hunt public land. Say 2018, for example, a new piece. I knew that my opportunity was going to be used up on a cold front late October. I wanted to be able to call, and I wanted to be able to be timing up that pre-rut as best as possible. So, I mean, at the end of the day, that was a pretty easy one to determine how to get in and get out because all the cover was to my north, the slope of the big hillside in front of us. I mean, this is the other thing cool about Iowa. You can find sections where there's standing ag at that time. there's a lot of different buyback programs with the Iowa DNR. And so, that one laid out perfect because it's a north wind. Bucks are bedded on the south slope overlooking this big bottom where the does ideally are going to come out. We ended up killing a buck. As far as like pinpointing perfect access and exit, I mean, maybe somebody's got a, magic bullet, but to me, obviously trail cams are helpful, but they never paint the full picture that just going and hunting is going to tell you. At the end of the day, I have observed time and time again, and, a lot of my experience is as much my own, but just the thousands and thousands of hunts I've edited or the raw footage I've got to look at. Like I get to see way more success and failures and hear what people think and why it worked or why it didn't simply because of my job, and at the end of the day, the best stands very rarely were ever picked out the very first time, and that's what I would say. Like, that's why a lot of hanging hunting is done by our team. It's micro adjustments. You can guess pretty good. Like, if you have to walk through a bedding area, it's probably not going to work out. Being able to pinpoint, how does bedding shift around your property throughout the year. I think there's nothing that's going to out hunt or out strategize time, but you obviously need to pay attention to those things as you're going. Could probably come up with a shorter answer to that, but
Josh, do you feel like your kind of approach changes whether it's a public land piece or a permission piece? Like, when you're talking about entry and exit and wind direction, like, are you more apt to take risk on public versus a permission piece?
Yeah, as ignorant as it might sound, for sure. I mean, like on public land, let's start with private land. Like, for whatever reason, I fall into that like whole mystical. I give the deer so much credit of like, I don't want to try that. I don't want to get too aggressive, even though oftentimes probably should have just gone with your gut. I mean, I think hunting your gut's the best bet. Like, I think about the Big Bird property, that antler right there. It's a buck we called Drop Time, got the piece in 23. His other side matched there, but he had, 6-inch drop coming off the right. There's 4 or 5 different times, like, where the night before, we're like, we should probably go hunt him, and then talk myself out of it, and he walks by. I mean, it was just like, he was killable, and we didn't deserve to kill him. Yeah, I mean, we just sucked. And then on public land, like, my favorite part about hunting public land is, like, I will try anything that I think sounds a mix between fun and, productive. And I'm not worried about, quote unquote, burning out a spot. Like, I oftentimes, hunting public land is often, my rejuvenation. Just go hunt. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'd say my tactics change, and that's stupid to say out loud. You really should probably hunt the same way across, But what I would say is I don't give public land deer more credit, and maybe that's because we're in Iowa and we definitely have less pressure. I'm not discounting at all you hear that often, like East Coast, and not maybe East Coast, but like big woods of Ohio or the South, like deer don't respond the same way they do in the Midwest. I mean, that's for sure. But at least in Iowa, I'm not seeing a huge difference in how deer act. I think, whether it's an urban hunt or, like this piece that I'm talking about right there, that drop tine or public land, the deer know where human intrusion occurs naturally or more frequently. And I think they adapt from there. So, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I would treat it differently. I mean, it keeps you fresh, right? It keeps your mindset fresh. And to your point, I had a deer. I think there's a big thing to be said for having conviction in your plan and sticking with it. Like, I had a hunt, I killed a deer, and my buddy killed one within 45 minutes of me on a different farm. And it was a day that we shouldn't have had confidence. It was 64 degrees on like November the 5th or 6th. And I just told him, I said, it's kill day tomorrow. It's kill day. I had a plan. I stuck with it. We woke up. He's like, I'm not feeling it. I'm like, I'm telling you, it's kill day. You're going to kill one about 8:15. I'm going to kill one about 9 o'clock. And that's exactly what happened. He goes, oh my gosh, have you done that before? I said, yeah, once or twice. I said, dude, sometimes you just got to have like, I don't know, uber confidence. I mean, Graham, you got to have it for a living. I mean, yeah. Sometimes you just got to have that confidence and stick with it.
Yeah, I mean, you can never out hunt just being there, I mean, that's, I guess what I was trying to say with the drop time bucks. Like, I was waiting for this in my head, perfect opportunity, but it was repeating itself over and over. We basically had determined that not every north wind, but if he was going to show up, he kept walking by, and this is kind of what we're talking about, your question, Graham, of like entry and exit, how much. It was very apparent pretty quickly on the neighbor's side of the fence, very thick bedding area. He would jump one fence coming with, from the south, walk right by this tree we have, winds in his face, check the bedding, come out like 30 minutes on another fence crossing. I mean, it was just like repetition. And he did it 3 or 4 times. I mean, it was just like the 4th time, I'm like, what are we doing? And there's other factors that fell into that. But, I have no shame in dropping my pride and being like, he was killable. And we just didn't capitalize, Felt like going into 24, we had him figured out and then disappeared. I'm assuming a VHD, never did find him. But I had him from when he shed in March all the way through when he shed his velvet. I mean, he just figured him out, and then we never got the chance to try to recapitalize. But
yeah, I got a question for you. So season's about to spin up. Kentucky, we have the luxury of first Saturday in September, archery opens. They're usually in velvet. Going into season, how much, how do I want to phrase this? Going into season, how much do you put into scouting and like, all right, this is his pattern and you think it's going to stick that way come 1st of October for when Iowa opens?
Yeah.
Because
so
Kentucky,
are you asking like
so like Kentucky for, yes.
Like summer,
like,
right? So
yes.
We had this discussion on the show, actually, of just like, do velvet pictures matter? And everybody's going to give you a different answer. And I think that that's very dependent on what their property offers, right? If you've got a place that, generally speaking, offers everything a buck needs at a certain time of the year to be happy, like Owen, for example, he would give you the answer that absolutely they do matter. I think something that I've seen is the one thing that velvet pictures have told me is I need to get my stuff and gear to prepare for the fall. And it's like, he's alive. And then you get this like big thing of excitement. But typically what's happening at that time frame, that's about as far as it goes for me. Specifically, let's talk about that buck on the permission piece. So he disappeared last year. There's another buck that I call 6x5 that is kind of his running mate in the, the spring, summer. And they're very distinct. And there's only 2 mature bucks that I've ever gotten pictures of there. And then, everything I'm making plans on has nothing to do with this time of the year, though. And I'm looking at October 1st through January 10th, and I'm trying to make decisions based off that. So how we hunted 2024 with 6x5, when Drop Time disappeared, this other buck started to show up, I should say. Like he had never really worked scrapes, but he always disappeared. At least in 23, he disappeared like October 3rd. Well, he did it again. And then, last late season, he showed back up November. I shouldn't say late season. It was late November. He showed up within the hour of the exact same day from 23 to 24. And then that's when he stuck back in. And so every plan that I'm making this year has nothing to do with the fact that he spends the spring and summer on this property pretty much every day. And then he leaves. Everything that I'm doing to try and kill him is based on the historical fall evidence. Trail cams, what winds does he show back up on? He doesn't spend a whole lot of time on the property come fall. I mean, I think I have not gotten a picture of him between October 3rd and November 24th, I think is when he showed back up, the 2 years. So, I mean, personally, summer stuff, it's great. It's exciting. Do I use it to make hunting plans? No. If I could hunt in September, yeah, for sure. I mean, that for us, that fall shift really occurs, completely aligning with harvest is what my observation is, and that would be the other layer I'd throw into there is like, I don't think on the properties that I hunt year to year to year, all these things we're talking about, scrapes or activity where they're bedding is gospel. I think that what I see the biggest changes is what's the crop rotation around the property. Where's the corn versus the beans on this piece of ground? When it's corn, it is way better, and that's like right now in 23, when that buck showed up, he was there sporadically in late season. 2024, he was there all the time. The biggest difference is the ag that's on either side of it was corn in 24. It was beans in 23. I'm not really expecting that he's going to spend a whole lot of time there this year, late season, which is why I'm trying to buy back crops from the farmer, which that's a whole different discussion. I don't know if you guys have tried to do that. You can tell pretty quickly whether you're leaning towards it's actually going to happen or not. The first response I got was kill them all, which is never a good thing when you're trying to buy back food to, in their heads, recruit more deer. But yeah.
Yeah, see, even without ag, I still see the same thing. There's a pattern switch. I've noticed. So we get deer in velvet, he'll disappear for 2 or 3 days, the shed. Just expect that's going to happen around somewhere September 1st to the 10th. Your deer's going to disappear. I've seen some deer where they'll come back and they'll hang around until about September 20th. Then they do a total shift. Some deer will do the total shift as soon as they shed.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing that works against on this property, and I want to be very clear for this not to come off the wrong way. I am super grateful for the landowner, but he utilizes the heck out of his property, right? I mean, he's got honeybees. He's on the property every day, driving the four side by side around. When I had the opportunity to work for Drury for a few years, and one of his statements was, when the velvet sheds, the brain cells develop, and their tolerance is just entirely changed. And, I think that is another big part of, at least on my property, the human intrusions often, right? And I know that there are places very close by that they don't have anything. You know what I'm saying? It's right along a highway. So I think that every property is different with what you're going to see. I think a buck's temperament's different. What's interesting, though, is once crops come out and all of that security cover is gone of where they can be right on the fringes, because it's got everything else you need. I mean, it's got great oaks. It's got, good CRP. I think that's what makes the property so good. It's the forbs during the summer. They love them. Got great water, but the exact same things exist around it with no human intrusion, right? So the only hope that we have on that property killing a deer in mid to late November is the does, and there's very few deer in the first place.
Yeah. So I had that. Our farm used to be the opposite until we logged the cedars, but it was a rut farm. I wouldn't have many deer. I mean, they could have been there and weren't on camera, but I wouldn't have many big bucks, and all of a sudden October 1st would hit and there'd be 3 or 4 shooters show up, and they'd stick around till the end of November, and then they're gone again.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing that, you do hear a lot and see a lot is if you have them in summer, the chances are they are going to return towards the back half of season, and I think that is, talking with Owen in that episode I made mention of, our biggest takeaway was when you don't have your deer, that's when you can start to identify probably the best property improvements, you can make if your goal is to hold them all year. Some places you just don't have maybe the space to work with or budget to work with, whatever it might be. But if you got deer in the summer, there's probably a reason. If they leave in the fall, try to replicate, not to oversimplify it, but they're slaves to their stomach for most of the year. And then, at one point in the year, they think about something else. Water, food, security. I mean, if you got those things, you're in good shape in Iowa.
Yeah. Yeah, you had mentioned the landowner. What do you think? What would you say your big 3 mistakes to avoid would be for permission-based hunting?
Don't make it an exchange. Don't just trying to think of the best way to word this. I mean, with the property owners that give me permission, I really want them to know how much I appreciate them, first and foremost. And maybe let's call that point 3. Point number 1 is time of year when to ask. I think that where we're at in Iowa, there's a lot of ag country. People start to get excited at this time of the year. You're seeing velvet bucks, and so you just want to go knock on permission. I cannot tell you the last time I asked for hunting permission for deer season first. I think that is less likely to go well. Whereas shed, if I know a place I want to hunt it, I'm going to go knock for shed permission, or I'm going to go knock to coyote hunt, or I'm going to go do anything that's not this there's a lot of people that knock for deer hunting permission in Iowa. Oftentimes the other issue that I see is people knock really close to October when harvest is going. These guys have something very different on their mind. They're trying to get crops out. They're not focused on other people going out and hunting on their land. And that's the other reason why I feel like being able to prioritize and build a relationship with a landowner, let them get to know you. You're not taking a weapon out there with you during shed hunting, right? That is such a different feeling than a stranger going out on your ground with a bow and arrow, or maybe even if you're firearm hunting, whatever. So I think time of year is very important to determine. If you can have a mutual friend, that's huge, right? Like
Yeah,
any
we just
sort of
capitalized on that.
familiarity is really, really nice. And I've noticed typically leads to the opportunities higher rate of success. But the biggest thing for me is like once you get there, and this is hard. I mean, like everybody's got selective amounts of time, right? Like you got your own family, you got your own friends, work, whatever it might be. I feel like the worst thing somebody can do is like once you get the permission to only invest into it when there's a deer you want to hunt on the property, and that's something that like as I've acquired more permission properties, I spend just as much time trying to build a friendship, even the years that there's not a big deer to hunt. You know what I mean? Because any year it could change. But if the only time I show up is when there's a big deer, and the chances are might not hold on to that as long. You know what I mean? And it's trying not to make it a take relationship. We take our landowners to dinner a couple times a year, breakfast, help out when we can. And some years it definitely does not, in theory, yield a net, experience. But at the same time, like it can be taken away like that, and with what I do, and it's just part of it. I mean, I'm not frustrated by it. Like, filming hunts has given me every opportunity that I've, earned today, or however you want to take that. But it's also led to interest from family members that maybe didn't know what was there, or just the fact that somebody else was hunting. Now all of a sudden they have interest in hunting. And so I
Yep.
always just kind of make the assumption that, if I come at it from a very genuine place of just, I'm interested in getting to know these people, be friends with them, respect them, treat their land better than anybody else could, put a good name as just a hunter in general. Cause that's the unfortunate thing. I don't know about you guys, but I've been told no more times about hunting a piece permission ground wise based on somebody else's actions in the past than any other reason. Had nothing to do
Yep.
with me. Had everything to do with somebody trespassing in the past. And then the family said, well, we're just never going to allow it. And I think that there's a lot of locked up acres because of that. And so that's the other thing I would say, like what to avoid. Don't ever represent hunters in a poor light, because, chances are you could lock up a piece for a lot longer than you ever anticipated through those mistakes.
I mean, it sounds a lot like too is just you just got to treat it as a working relationship. It's not just a one-sided relationship. You got to have some form of way to give back to them to let them know that you care about what they're doing for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think call a spade, at least in Iowa. I mean, everybody knows the white-tailed deer is a highly sought-after animal. I mean, lease prices are crazy, and that's as much as I think that there's a lot of opportunities that come with leasing, right? And I mean, you just hear about some of the pricing that it costs per acre. My
What
brain
is
works in
that?
a way where, like, if I paid $6,000 for a lease and I hunted it 10 times, my brain just works as I paid $600 a day to go deer hunting. That's crazy. I will never do that. At least if I'm not going to own the ground, right? And so there's other ways to do that. I mean, I'd rather spend $600 going to dinner and talking with the landowners and learning their history and their families, and like some of the best stories and frankly some of the coolest things I've ever learned come from those landowners. I mean, you talk about the best person to scout the property you're hunting if you're not living close. It's the guy who lives there, right? So I mean, if you talk all the time, like it's funny, the piece we're talking about with drop tine 6x5, I got a text last night from the landowner. He's like, there's something happening here where we're planting a food plot, because this is year 3 and we're finally able to, take these next steps of putting in plots and changing of, things on his property. Whereas year 1, it was like, there's no way I'm asking for that, right? Like these people live on the property. They put in tons of time. They respect their land. They, specifically this landowner, like he is a very, very multifaceted, improve the land. He's got honeybees. He's got, different CRP he takes care of. He plants trees all the time, and it's really cool that he allows us to do what we do on the property. He's always like, hey, I saw this deer. This is where he was coming from. It's like, oh, that's more valuable than any trail camera I got out there right now. You know what I mean? He shows you, photos from like one of the first things that we were able to, really determine was not very many deer spent much time on this property after crops came out, he's like, yeah, the deer, man, they're here all summer. And he's showing us all these big bucks in velvet eating out of his apple trees and, pear trees that he's got. And so right away I was like, okay, well, that's good to know. Because if he's not seeing them, something changes. Now, as we've, been able to put more pieces to the puzzle, I think that there's different reasons for that. But I don't know. I mean, I could go on a tangent about it forever. It's like, treat people how you want to be treated. If you got those friends that call you when they need something, typically over time, they're not usually your friend that long, or they're not as good of a friend. Be the friend and, the hunter that they feel like there's a true value added to their life, and that's why I was saying on the front end, like, not everybody has just endless time to do that, but you can accomplish a lot in a little with just different gestures.
Well, let's put it this way. I've got my own video production business. I've had clients in the past that it's like, you try to get revisions done or something, can't get it done. But then, like, as soon as they need something, you haven't talked to them in 6 months. Hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do that? I'm like, dude, I'm not working with this person anymore. Nope. And they're paying me. And I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm done with this.
Yeah, everything's relationship driven, man. I mean, like, Graham. So this is a dumb question. So you play professional baseball? Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't prep you on that. My bad.
No, you're good. I was just putting things together as I was hearing. But, I mean, being a good teammate, I mean, like, I think that's I obviously never went anywhere collegially or professionally in any sport, but what I learned from my coaches back then is still a huge part of what I do today. It's like, everybody's got bad days and makes mistakes and has lapses in judgment or attention to detail. But if you just prioritize being a good teammate or being, a reliable person, that's going to go super far. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I mean, I luckily don't have to work with quote unquote too many clients, Clayton, but
I don't either, but it's still like, some of them it's just like, dude, if the only time I hear from you or get an answer is when you need something, it's really annoying.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean you have to call them every day, right?
No,
it's just
yeah.
like checking in and
Keep in contact.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. As a guy that, like, right now is like, it's solely permission hunting, or, even like the new piece I got, which I'm most excited about for this fall, that was totally unexpected. It's a great friend of mine. I mean, he is a human that should be celebrated more than anybody I know. He's a Green Beret, served our country, worked in the FBI forever, spends his entire life giving back to veterans in any way he can now. And last year, he just asked me to come help him put out some trail cameras. We hung out for a day. He's a good friend of mine, but never once did I expect that would turn into going and hunting with him, if that makes sense. Like, we did that last year. Season goes by. We're just staying in contact, seeing how each other's falls are going. And then spring comes and he's like, hey, man, what do you think about coming and hunting here? And at first I was like, I don't know if that's a good idea. Like, I don't know. Like, that's something personally I'm very careful about hunting with friends. Like, I think that there's so many things, unfortunately, that it all comes down to, like, what's your goal? And if you're not transparent with each other what your goals are on a piece of property, then people get mad and it's stupid. You should never lose a friend over a
big
deer.
whitetail ruin a friendship real fast.
The first sit luck.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
Yeah. So, I mean, we were able to have a great conversation and just put everything out on the table. And, I can't say thank you enough to him. Number one, the landowner, right? I mean, the landowner who lets him hunt, and then bringing me into this scenario and this situation is like, don't have a family property, and so living in Iowa, like, between the public land that we have access to and between the landowners that, for whatever reason, allow me to hunt for free, that's why I get to still do this and have a lot of fun doing it, and I'm super grateful for that.
Yeah.
You touched on leasing land. Do you feel like the rise in leasing land has made permission-based pieces significantly harder to obtain?
Or
is it just a case by case?
Not in Iowa. I was gonna say, I don't think so in Iowa. I think, like, you think about, like, Missouri, yes. I think, like, just with our buddies that we have down there, like, they're talking like paying $30 an acre. It's just crazy to me, and I started doing the math on how big of pieces they're hunting, and they got 2 or 3 of those, and I'm like, y'all spend more in deer hunting than I have in the last 5 years just to have access. You know what I mean? Iowa, it definitely, your bigger chunks, I think that's where it's harder now. I think that there are a lot of landowners, and to their credit, they're educated on the fact that they can, make some extra money to help cover the taxes. And I think that there's a lot of landowners should never just like feel like they're not getting anything out of it, right? But there's still a lot of landowners that, you know, allow access. I'm trying to think how to word that, because in my experience, I don't think so. I'm also not looking for leases, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's why I think I'm a little skewed on that. But Southern Iowa, simply put, yeah, there's way more ground that's leased. I think that, I know the last lease I had, I guess is probably the easiest way to put it, was 2021. And, it was leased not only for the farming, but it was also leased for the hunting rights. That one was $15 an acre, and it was awesome. I just never got the chance to really go hunt. It ended up turning into being like an hour and 20 minutes away from where I started working. But I think it's like anything. You can go find it if you want it. I think that's what's a lease give you that a permission doesn't. That it's not going to be uprooted from you at any day, and that's that peace of mind has got to have a cost. Because even if you do the very most that you can with a permission property, it's on a ticking clock most ways, So I don't know. It just depends, I guess, how much disposable income you have or how much overtime you're willing to allocate to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you told me the other day, most of your places are at least a 45-minute drive. So scouting electronically, using whatever app you want, maps, what are your big keys to success there? So I guess the question is, what's your big keys to success for scouting electronically, given the fact that you are at least an hour drive from any of your farms?
I think if I was going to break it down just very simple, which is you guys are picking up on, I don't have the ability to answer a question short. Time of year, determining when I'm going to hunt a place is the most important, if that makes sense. If I know I'm going to be hunting late October in a certain window, the things I'm paying attention to would probably be a little bit different on that map versus if I was going to hunt there in early season. Using, I guess what time of year depends on what I'm doing as well, right? Like right now, if I'm looking, I'm trying to find as many leaf off versions of a map as I can. It's pretty sweet when you start to go back, even like on Google Earth, you can go and identify historical maps. I use Onyx for everything, but unfortunately right now in Iowa, we don't have leaf off. And so Land ID, I made a free account on there. You can see some very, very detailed maps that give you a lot of information.
Oh, you can see down trees that could create a pinch point.
It's insane. And you start talking about being able to really break apart, where's your coniferous versus deciduous trees and, identifying edges of different habitat. That is huge for me. And then I just would take it a step further and go, well, what's the most ideal weather condition? Everybody wants to hunt a cold front at that time of year. And if it exists, you want to be able to maximize it. Kind of what you're talking about, Graham. That's another thing, like identifying, is there logging roads? Is there very clear access along field edges? It's always a guess when you're scouting electronically of where the deer actually are. But like I said, I think for me, I try to check off as many places that I don't want to hunt, that I don't feel like are going to give me, the ability to be in the game if I'm having to drive that far. Right now, the permission pieces, driving an hour, I still do it. I just do it very sporadically. I just try to time up where if I'm going out there, I'm going to try to get a lot done. So,
yeah, I think one thing a lot of people could possibly overlook scouting electronically is, you say leaf off versions of maps. But what about leaf on? Because if you can identify a really big oak in a key position, a lot of times that could be the tree you're looking for success in October when that acorns is dropping real good.
Yeah, no, it depends. If you have a fall map that's got colors, typically It's either like green or it's, everything's dead. I totally agree that if you can find those fall maps, that's even better. Because now all of a sudden you can really start to see, especially if you've got like a middle to late October, you'll see your oaks pop out, above everything else, which is very, very helpful. I've never had a map that does that very often, unfortunately, unless Google Earth randomly takes it in that area.
Yeah.
But
Okay, so let's do this. Scouting electronically using Onyx. What 3 locations are you looking for on a map for hunting during the rut, where everything's wide open and deer are unpredictable, but you know they're using certain travel patterns?
man, if only that was like a property to property answer. I mean, I think that anything that's going to funnel movement is probably my number one. I mean, don't get me wrong, like assuming I don't know the property, my first few hunts are not going to be just going into the belly of the beast. I mean, that I think a lot of times, it's easy. Like I kind of talk about, like on public land, this is something I would do. I just go to where I think is probably a place that I can, just barrel into as early as possible, sit all day, hunting a bunch of different ridge systems that come together and just rely on the fact that I'm going to learn something. But step one, just if I was having to choose to hunt, one of these permission pieces, it's anything that's going to funnel movement down. If I can identify a quote unquote funnel, and what I mean by funnel and pinch points is just somewhere where everything narrows together. Maybe that's where a tree line exists, and I'm just going to be on the downwind side of the biggest bedding area that has that, if that makes sense. Again, my brain just like it gives a different answer of like based on its random hunting. So I need to figure out how to answer that question better.
Yeah, so like for example, for us, we've got big hills, big ridges. Mm-hmm. If I could look at the contour map and the contour lines, and I see where those contour lines are much closer together on a certain section of the hill, you get on the uphill side of where that contour starts to drop off, it's probably a good bet because it's less steep there and it creates a transition point or change in terrain that those bucks are going to travel during the rut looking for does. They're not going to walk in the middle of that steep section. They're going to walk right at the top of it or right at the base of it.
Yeah, and as you know, Graham, we don't have very much of that. There is some, quote unquote elevation change in South Central Iowa, but once you get into the big woods, don't get me wrong, there's some different ravines and ridges and things of that nature, but it's those connectors of big blocks that are my favorite places to hunt during the rut specifically. If you can get in to a bedding area specific, like on a thermal morning, that's something you'll hear our guys say a lot. It's just something where your scent's going to rise up. You don't have clouds. You got high pressure, clear day, very minimal wind. I love to get right in the belly of the beast on those days.
You talking high or low on the hill?
Well,
elevation wise.
That's what I mean. We just don't have hills.
It's like, where he's
so
at.
flat.
If it's where I'm thinking of, it's flat. When I say rolling hills, it's pitcher mound hills. It's not.
Yeah. It's hills. Florida. All right, I got you.
Yeah.
If you get into like northeast Iowa and you start getting into big timber, you can have elevation changes of 100 feet plus. But it is very minimal. Even like your river bottoms where I'm hunting, it's flat. We have enough topography change.
Well, that's why I did the shed hunt with the Lindsays this year on their place in Iowa. So, but I was surprised at the hills they did have. I was like, I thought it would be flatter than
Jeff
this.
And David are, if you're at the house there, that is some of the most what I would call exaggerated topography change in South Central Iowa that exists. Obviously, if you're, on the backside of David's house looking across, it's like this. That's probably one of the most beautiful views you can build a house in the country.
You're talking about a bean field and cornfield behind the house. You could shoot a giant in if you wanted to.
Yeah. So, that ridge system that rolls through there is very similar to probably what you would experience in Stevens State Forest or any of those other big tracks. I love hunting the big woods, but like I said, I like hunting in the terrain where there's a lot less woods, tons of cover, but you can pretty much look on a map and go from this block to this block, they're going to go back and forth throughout the day here. I wish I had a map. I would do so much better answering these questions if we're like, okay, put this map here. What would you do?
We could set that up. I think that's great. I'd love to do that. Yeah. That's one of my favorite things to do is sit on my computer and look at maps and just start letting the wheels spin.
Exactly. I'm not good at, here's my
theory.
Yeah.
You like details. You're not a theory guy. You're a detail guy.
Probably a good way to put it. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but
I'll tell you though, it does help at least because where I was in Des Moines, so that's where I was at.
Okay.
And I mean, when you get in some of those areas that is thick as it is, like, I mean, you can tell where the deer walk because I mean, it's a freaking highway compared to the rest of the surrounding foliage.
Yeah, I would say that that is as much a determinant factor as anything, as just your edge. And I mean, that's something that, like, I'm looking for a place that's got as much change as possible in different areas. It might be an ag field right next to a hardwoods, or it might be hardwoods right next to a cedar line. It could be kind of what you guys were alluding to, where there's a topography change. I mean, obviously you hear all the time different thermal hubs. Those exist. I mean, even like in fields, I mean, like the new piece we're trying to watch, or that I was talking about earlier, there's a huge alfalfa field. It's like 16 acres that runs east to west. And my buddy Casey he's like, they always come out right here. Every time this is where they come from the south. And you can see it's, again, nothing like you're talking about, Clayton, but it's just a very slight change where thermals suck down every night. And when a buck comes from the south, he can't see the field, so he needs to smell the field as he's walking up. And he's wanting to put a tree stand and, a food plot right there. And I'm like, man, it's a very, very tough spot to hunt. I mean, we would need very specific conditions so that, our wind's not falling right down there with it. But I'm trying to, if you ask me a question one more time, I'm going to try to answer this a little bit more, just like pointedly.
Okay, I got one you probably never even thought of. I don't know, you might have.
That's setting me up for failure on this track.
So morning hunts, do you think big bucks walk thermoclines? So what I mean by that is deer like to walk with transitions, so changes in topography, terrain, cedars versus hardwoods. You ever walk down a hill, you get close to the bottom or halfway down, there's a severe change in temperature. Do you think on a morning hunt, a big buck will walk that temperature edge midway down a hill where you've got that 10-degree drop in temperature?
See, I've never thought about things like that.
See, I think about it because of fishing. So fish are the same way. They like transition, whether it's watercolor change, salinity change, temperature change.
Okay.
All animals like that transition to use that as a reason for them to travel a certain way.
Maybe this is the wrong answer, but at that time of the year, my focus is to stop hunting him, and I'm hunting where the does are. Because at that point...
Well, but this is even in September. Like, we have it on our farm, even in September. You walk down that hill, you get about halfway down, you can feel it almost instantly, a 10-degree temperature drop.
Yep. Yeah,
I got to thinking about it. I was like, I ought to try and inspect hunting this sometime, because I bet in the morning, going back to bed, he's walking right on that edge of that temperature drop for the first hour.
Like, the way my mind goes with that, it's like it'd be a good spot for them to be, because, they can put that to maybe there is no wind, but now at least they've got an ability, sense falling behind them. Thermals are going to fall if it's an evening. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they're there, right? I'm just trying to even think of a spot that I hunt where that's how it works. I mean, you got the river bottoms that I hunt.
River bottoms will definitely do that to you.
Yeah. You're right. I've never heard that question, and
I thought about it the other day. I was like, I gotta start asking people this, because I wonder if that's a thing or not.
After you saying that too, Clayton, it kind of got me thinking: how far down the hill was the shred tree last year from the top of Sheep Farmer? How far down?
It was probably pretty close to where that temperature change is going to be. We had a video we posted, Josh. I put a camera like 5 foot from a rub. It was like a hardwood tree that they had shredded, and I put it in there like November 12th or something. Went back, grabbed the clips, put a little reel together, got like 3 million views on Instagram. But that's the shred tree he's talking about, and it was like halfway down the hill, right about where that temperature change would be. But there's also a change there between hardwoods and where they log cedars.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, if the temperature's changing, obviously that means that,
it's like a 10-degree drop.
Fall right there. You know what I mean?
Like if you're a deer and you got to walk along parallel to a ridge top, you want to walk where it's 10 degrees warmer, or just drop down to where it's 10 degrees cooler?
Yeah, I mean, that's taking it to the next level of preference.
I mean, it's extremely in the weeds, but I don't know. I was just curious. I was thinking about that the other day.
I mean, if it's colder,
I walk down this hill all the time. Yeah.
I mean, the way my head always thinks is like, where are they getting the most? I mean, it's like when you start to look at like, where's a buck pop out or where the deer pop out, there's always some sort of connection to they can smell the best, is what I feel like I've observed. So, I mean, if everything's falling right there, if the temperature's falling off right there, chances are So is everything around it scent wise, maybe that's not right, but based on what you're saying, it would seem to be accurate. I don't know. That's why, like, I was talking to my buddy Corey, like, coming to Ohio and hunting. I mean, like, you get so wrapped up in hunting Iowa. Like, some of the things I hear people talk about on other podcasts, I'm like, it just doesn't even feel like it exists where we're at. I'm sure it does in its different ways. You guys make me feel like an idiot right now. That's what I feel like.
I don't know if I've ever heard anyone talk about that, ask that, think about that. Yeah. Look, I'm not saying I've consumed all the content in the world because I do production for a living. So by the time I'm done with my shows for the year, episodes for the year, I'm kind of over hunting content. Honestly, I just want to hunt myself, but I've never heard anyone talk about it. So
no, it's interesting. And it's like, again, my head right now is just like going over the pieces I hunt. For example, I mean, one of the most active spots I have I shouldn't say I have, it's where we put cameras out last year in the summer with my buddy I was talking about. It's creek crossing. And I mean, that's when I think about this particular property, that's as big of a topography change as exists is from the top of the ridge. And there's a very clear trail that connects the two ridges together. It's one of the most active cameras we had specifically for daylight activity. And it was just a hot spot in between doe bedding areas. Would it be a location that I hunt? No, but it gave me a lot of information of setting up on either side of it, because getting into that spot would be dang near impossible. I mean, I don't care what time of year it is, you're going to bump something going into it. However, where it appears deer go from it, there's a lot of different opportunities to hunt that a little bit more advantageously.
Yep.
You touched on it a little bit, Josh. This is a pretty easy one. Favorite state to hunt other than Iowa?
He's going to find a way to make it hard.
Yeah, I've not gotten to hunt.
You can make it hard, too, if you want.
No, I've not gotten to hunt very many places.
What a shame. You only got to hunt Iowa.
I'm not complaining. Certainly not complaining. But, quote unquote, kind of like you're talking about, Clayton, like fall's a really busy time for the job I've been lucky to get to do. And so if I'm tagged out, that doesn't mean, there's still people to go film and, there's a lot to do at the time of the year. Now, hopefully this year, getting to go to a few different places. I would say Illinois, because it's really the only other place I've ever got to go experience hunting. I did hunt Georgia once, but that was a little skewed too. I got to hunt Real Tree Farms, so that I'm fully aware that that's
definitely
the top there. Of the top in the South.
Yeah, Zach's in Georgia.
Yeah, and dude, my favorite part about going to deer hunt in Georgia was, like what turkey hunting is down there to you guys, where I feel like it's a very like secretive, everybody's like hush hush about the birds they got. That's how it is in Iowa. Very few people are just honest and can talk about hunting with a stranger and have a good time. Everybody's very secretive. I felt like for the first time I got to experience hunt camp. It was like, it was as much fun before the hunt and after the hunt as actually hunting. It was just a completely different culture around it. Now, like I said, again, I know that where I was at I was showing up and I was hunting. It's a very different vibe than if I had gone to hunt a state forest or something of that nature. But, that was one of the most enjoyable trips I've ever been on. Amazed me how small the deer are, body-wise. I'll never forget the first thing we saw. I was like, dude, there's a fawn.
Welcome to the South, man.
Yeah.
Welcome to the South.
We're like, hey, I was like, fawn coming, and then I realized it was the adult doe when this little puppy dog came running behind her. And I was like, holy crap, man,
Must be legal and bigger than a beagle.
Yeah. No, the South has been, turkey hunting. I could have a lot of different answers for that. I've gotten to travel a lot more for that, but I don't know. Anywhere new, let me just put it that way, is where I'm excited for the future. Hopefully this year I'll be able to go back to Illinois, go to Ohio. Indiana's been in discussions. Just going somewhere without any agenda.
You going public at Ohio?
Yeah, it would be. Yep.
What? I'm not going to ask you what public piece of ground because the people bug you, but what part of the state?
Couldn't even tell you. Wherever Corey lives, which I just gave it away if people know him. But yeah, I mean, literally there's no expectation. He had recently, became a father, and he's not going to get to travel as much this year. And we wanted to get on a hunt, and he hunts some cool terrain, and so we thought about just trying to line up a few days if it works out. And that's, if I was going to say what my favorite part about hunting public land in Iowa has been, is there's no expectation. Like we've talked about, chasing one deer is a lot of fun, but getting to go to a woods where you have no idea what's there, you're not as much as and maybe it's just me. I don't want to speak for other people, but when you know every single deer that's on your property because of the trail cams, and it's not the shooter, even though it's a great buck, there's still like not as much excitement as you experienced as a kid. You know, and it's like every deer was like, what is it? Oh, that's an awesome buck. You know,
it mystifies hunting again.
Correct. And that's what I would say I'm looking most forward to. You know, maybe it's not the state, it's just the
new experience.
It's all new. Yeah.
Well, I hope you have your hiking boots on for Ohio.
Yeah, especially if you're in southern
Yeah,
Ohio.
listen, if you're in the southern part of Ohio, depending on which part, definitely don't go scouting in the summer. There's a lot of timber rattlers.
Yeah. No, I got a fresh feel of the word hiking when I hunted turkeys in Alabama. You know, when we were on that state forest down there, man, that was a different experience. It was the most frustrating week I've ever had. And
North Alabama?
Yeah, we were, what is that?
That's my neck of the woods. Skyline?
What's the big state forest there? It stretches like 70 miles north and east. I don't know why I'm forgetting this right now. It pulls up. That's amazing.
Like, were you like...
This is how I can tell you're an editor. He's looking up at his other screen.
Yep.
Are you in North Alabama? Were you in
northeast
like
Alabama.
near Huntsville, northeast? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's Skyline.
So the big state forest, give me 1 second here, fellas. Go to the pin. It was not Chocolaco. Talladega. Sorry, that's what it is.
Talladega.
Okay, so
Talladega
all right,
National
you're a little
Forest.
south. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, I
You're
guess
there
that's
in that.
technically not northeast. That's like, see, I break things down by like a quadrant for whatever reason. So I feel like I'm in
That's
that.
because you're in Iowa and that's how they sell land.
Is that right?
Whereas Jeff came in turkey hunting with me and he was looking at stuff on a map. He's like, y'all have the weirdest property lines.
Yeah. That's funny.
Hey, you're over there just outside of Birmingham. Yeah. That's,
East of Birmingham. Yep, southeast.
That's
of
good.
it.
That's good.
It was-
turkey hunting
It was
area
fun.
right there.
I mean, we saw a turkey for
In the
30
pines.
seconds. Yeah, we saw a turkey for 30 seconds and we killed him. I mean, that was 5 days of walking. On there, I think we couldn't hunt past. It was 11 or noon. It was the first time I've ever hunted without decoys. It wasn't legal at that point yet, and then we just got lucky. I mean, I was not a good turkey hunter to kill a turkey down there. We just got lucky. You know, I mean, all these different, like you hunt the Midwest. I mean, with all the friends I've been lucky to acquire who live, you know, in the southern states, there's no respect for Midwest turkey hunting from them. Like it's the easiest thing in the world. You start to really get an appreciation for what they're saying, right? When you go down there, turkeys just act different. I mean, the word strut zone makes a lot more sense. You know, these birds, we heard probably 20 to 30 gobbles the whole trip. And they knew exactly where they wanted to be. And they did not budge from there. They didn't call back. You know, the entire strategy changed from day 1 through day 5, you know, getting up and under them. And I've never gotten in the woods as early as we have for a turkey, you know, when we killed them. And we just got lucky, like I said. But it was a cool one.
My first ever turkey I killed was Alabama bird.
Hey, I don't know if I'll go back.
And then I ruined him.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Florida?
No, our place in
No.
Kentucky.
Oh, gotcha.
I came out there and before I shot my bird, I had 8 other gobblers freaking going off, all within about 200 yards, 300 yards.
Yeah, and that's like in Iowa. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not every time, but there's very few birds you can't call to you, I feel like. You know, or they just move.
You feel like you're always in the chips. That's the way I put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you mess up one, you can go to the next property, and there's a good chance you'll get back on one. I did not feel that way in Alabama. I mean, truth be told, we were an hour and a half. It was just outside of Birmingham. We were on our way back to Iowa. Like, I was just done with it. And we hadn't had service the whole week, and so I was like, I got to go get some work done. I think we were in Gadsden is what this town is.
Gadsden, yep.
And I wanted crawfish before I left the South. So that was the closest place I had it on the way home. But we ate crawfish, and I looked at Aiden. I was like, we're going back. I mean, we were an hour and 20 minutes away, and I was like, we gotta try it one more time. And
You go to Crawl Mamas to get crawfish
I don't remember.
in Gunnersville.
It was great food. I mean,
Graham's
it was
giving out all the
amazing.
secret spots here.
Yeah, exactly. But no, that Clayton, I'm really excited to hunt out of state. I mean, I think that that's something, chasing one buck and doing that for the last 10 years, it's a lot of fun, but I think it certainly removed me from a lot of the reasons why I got into hunting, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Why I
Well,
really enjoyed it. And, it's this trend across the country. You see, you see if you're a big buck hunter, you complain about things you see when people are killing quote unquote smaller bucks or they're not prioritizing age. And then the people that, hunt public land and whatever think it's unrelatable when they see people shooting big deer. And I think at the end of the day, what everybody's trying to say is that they miss the camaraderie component of just going and hunting.
yeah, instead of everyone being haters.
Exactly. So
Golly.
I'm excited to get to experience that a little bit more.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Hunting a specific deer, what's the one biggest thing you've learned? For me, don't chase the cameras. Go to the area you know you can kill him. Use the cameras to understand he's in the ballpark. Then you go to the exact seat you know you can kill him.
The biggest thing I learned, number one, is no buck's the same. I mean, I think that oftentimes, don't get me wrong, like I think personality type, that sounds kind of weird talking about an animal, but like there's more submissive, there's more dominant, there's certain tactics that would probably work on a buck versus another. I've gotten to the point where if I'm hunting one specific buck, it's taught me more about learning the property. I think that if you guys talk about your Kentucky piece, at this point, the buck you're hunting is just the next one from 5 years ago. You probably at this point have figured out your property more so than you have a particular deer, if that makes sense. Like if you break down hunting one
deer patterns are historical.
Yeah, I would argue that like what Drop Time did is what the next mature buck that decides to actually use the farm in November is going to do. Like there's the same things over and over that they're going to be keying on. The doe bedding areas, where they cross, where the natural deer movement is. Now, what is that chasing one deer taught me is that it's, most of the time you lose. You know what I mean? And if you're always playing catch up, I mean, that you kind of took what I was going to say. I mean, that would be my biggest ones. Like cameras are always going to put you most of the time one step behind. If you're always waiting for him to daylight and then go hunt. I think man, I'm not doing good in this one today.
So you wanted the story of this deer behind me.
Mm-hmm.
That deer, for example, through 4 years of hunting him, I learned he wasn't living on me in the summer and the winter. He'd show up in October and he'd stick around for the rut and he was gone. And then I learned he had a little micro pattern in the rut. There was a certain head of a ridge that he really liked utilizing, like November 1st to the 10th. Then he'd disappear, what we'll call the lockdown stage. Then he'd be back the 15th to the 20th. And the 15th to the 20th is when he daylighted the most. That was when I was going to kill him. The year I ended up killing him, that's when I said I was going to kill him. I got lucky and killed him on the 9th, but I wasn't chasing the trail cameras that year anymore. Instead, I was using them to say, okay, he's around. All right, now I'm going to get in that area in the stand. I think I have the best odds of getting in front of him with the wind in my favor, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Not necessarily right next to the camera he was on last night.
Yeah, so my head goes when you say that. I mean, it's like with the property that we're talking about repeatedly with him. November, I think a lot of what people see on trail cam is related to when their local does go into estrus. And I think that that's very, very cyclical. And that's kind of what I guess I'm trying to say of like when I'm going to hunt the big bird property is obviously late October, November, you got a chance. But when those mature bucks show back up, I mentioned 6x5, I mentioned drop time. It's like the 15th through the 25th is when they go through. I mean, and it's like they don't waste their time just repeatedly checking. They know when to show up. They know, I mean, it's like year to year, I've been able to see at least whatever does are living there. And like, this is a different, case scenario because like I mean you think of Iowa, you think a ton of deer. I bet living on the property at any one time there's 6 does, 5-6 does, counting fawns. There's very, very few deer, and so we're not seeing that same uptick of like, oh, the rut's here, bunch of bucks are coming through and checking and trying to get lucky if the most dominant bucks was somebody else. And so I mean again, the question, the root of this was what has it taught me? And it's like chasing one deer has helped me figure out how to hunt a property well for the future. more so than just hunting and hoping something walked by. Because again, you start thinking, what's the mature buck doing and why is he doing it at a certain time of the year? Trail cams are a huge part of that. I mean, I save every trail cam picture I have and probably go down a rabbit hole that yields wasted time more so than, useful data. But
I don't know if I get amnesia, we're all screwed. So, because I'm not great at saving them.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I do it is because, I always have a camera like where my stands are, and you can start to just identify trends, right? I mean, it's like it is almost to a gospel of like the hawk crossing. If it's a north wind and the rut, there will be a buck that comes through. But there was specific, as you mentioned, like micro patterns or few days here and there that the older age class deer would come through. You could see where he entered, and after moving cameras around, you can see exactly where they're exiting almost each time, because that's what connects them to the next block. But I don't know. I mean, every deer is different. Every property is different. I mean, that's I think guys want to listen to, hunting shows and go, how do I kill my deer? And it's like, your property is the one that's going to tell you how to do that.
You work at it.
Yeah.
Like they do.
Yeah.
Like it's not just some luck
stands,
thing.
Don't just sit in the same spot every time for 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, transitioning from hanging hunts to being able to saddle hunt has been
Bro, we got stands that have been in the same spot for 10 years, and they're great spots every year, and I'm sick of sitting in them seeing the same thing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of like, Graham, your question earlier, it's like, eventually there's that X, you know what I mean? Like, there are those spots on every property somewhere that you can guarantee at some point someone's going to walk by. And I mean, as dumb as it sounds, like the best stand I've been able to find on this property where he was, it was where the old tree stand was. Somebody else had it figured out.
That happens all the
before
time.
me, right? I mean, like if I'm walking somewhere, new piece, even public land, because obviously it wasn't always public, I don't go, oh, look at that. There's somebody in here in the past. I'm like, why was that person here? Because those people used to have to put in a heck of a lot more effort to get in tree stands, than we did. They built stands. They did all these different things. So.
Yeah. All right, so let's ask this. Short answer. Favorite 5-day window to hunt during the rut?
Oh, November 1st through, let's go 5 days, November 2nd through 7th. I mean, if in general, I wouldn't say that for that property, but if I had to take a vacation during the rut, and you're saying the rut, not the pre-rut, right?
Correct.
Given the choice at this point, if we're talking hunting one deer, I'm hunting 27th through 31st, personally.
100%.
Given it on the rut, though, that time frame where your amount of does and estrus as your local spot is going to be its lowest, as you go further and further in the month towards the 15th. Like, it can be a lot more random, but, bucks are on their feet. They have less occupying them if you're, trying to shoot a quote-unquote mature buck that's going to lock down first. I also love the back half, like the 20th through 25th. Not saying I would say that for a vacation, like if I drew an Iowa tag, but if it's my home state, I love that time frame because that's when the bucks that don't live on you, they come through. They travel a little bit further. They're really callable at that point in Iowa. That's my favorite thing in the world to do is decoy and call. And that's an effective time because they just got that last frenzy before everything shifts back to food.
Well, I think for me, that latter part, they've had a taste of the breeding and they can't stand it, and all the does are bred out for the most part at that time. So they're just going nuts because they've had the taste of the addiction and they can't get rid of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and you said calling, so here's one for you. Guys say, "Oh, grunt call doesn't work." They walk away every time. How many people do you think say that don't realize the deer walked away because he saw you moving when you were calling at him? Because that deer can pinpoint the exact tree you're in.
Yeah, I think calling is, you guys seem like you really love turkey hunting. That's what I've learned is like, I've learned more about how to call at a deer through turkey hunting, as stupid as that may sound, of like, I think deer will respond to calling, but there's the right time to call. What are they doing? Can you see how they're reacting? Like the hunt that To answer your question, I think that guys, there's different grunts, right? Like if you just send out a loud "Brr" every single time and he can see you, and there's so many different variables, right? Like if you can see him and he can see what's below you and he can identify very quickly if there's something not there, I don't think that that's going to work out in your favor. I mean, I think that I don't necessarily know if it's that they see you moving. I mean, maybe that's likely.
Rattling for sure. I think it's hunter movement. I think it should busted more than not.
Yeah, I mean, like, for example, one of the things I've taken away with rattling, especially if it's a buck that you can see, it's oftentimes just as valuable. Let him go by you. Let him get further away, then rattle, have him come back. But again, when I'm thinking about calling, the most important part is like, what's he going to see on the ground level? You know, I think like the River Farm, if you've watched any Midwest Whitetail, you know, Mike gets so dang high in the tree, you know, hiding a guy. And I mean, he sits anywhere between 25 and 30 feet. And so from the aerial view, it looks like it's just this like open, wide river bottom. But the reality is like when you're on the ground, you can't see more than 5-10 yards in front of you. And calling is so dang effective on that place because they have to come check it out, if that makes sense. So if I was going to encourage somebody to think about calling, and if they've not had success doing it, you know, put yourself on the ground floor. What is the buck seeing? I see a lot of guys call on a field edge, you know, and all these openings around them. They see a buck, they call, buck looks, flicks his tail and walks away. Yeah. He can see, you know, he can see that there wasn't something there. Decoying, I don't know about you guys. That's something that like, I love doing it now. I mean, like once you understand how much you can use it. And again, I know people are either they've had great success with it or they've had poor success. We're not affiliated with them. Like that Dave Smith decoy, thing's expensive, but it's the perfect size. It's a very small with very good, you know, characteristics posture-wise that we've seen really good results from multiple age classes of deer responding to that thing.
I got a Dave Smith buck and they just usually sit in the box in the barn.
Yeah.
I used this past year.
Yeah, I'd say Graham used it for the first time in a decade.
If I would have used it the second time, I probably would have shot freaking drop time buck too.
What do you think the reason is? Is it because it's heavy, or you just don't see a good response?
Tight timber spots. I'm also in tight timber spots. Like where I go to, like where I killed that deer, it's a 45-minute hike through the timber.
Yeah. Down
one hill, across the creek. You got to go up the creek, then you got to go up the hill behind it where it's thicker than doo-doo. I'm not dragging a decoy through that. Yeah. And I don't want to be driving in there the night before just to drop a decoy off.
Yeah.
And when you're in timber spots like that, I don't care what you think, your spot is not bulletproof. Deer are going to walk behind you.
100%, yeah. I mean,
so you can't hide the decoy behind the tree. One's going to walk right up next to it and start smelling it.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, yeah, I used one last year. Didn't see
and then
anything.
I had to help him bring it out.
Yeah. He just happened to get in right as I was getting done hunting, and he was like, "You need a hand?" I said, "Yeah."
Yeah.
You got to stand in this freaking decoy to get out of here. But then I went after a drop time buck, and I grinded him in. And if I would have had a decoy set up, he would have came right to him. I mean, he came in looking for a fight, and he got into a clearing where he could see around these cedar trees, and he didn't see nothing.
I didn't even think about that. We need to sit down in that bottom right next to that barn this year and put a decoy out right up behind that barn where people on the road can't see it, but all those deer up the hill can. They'll come marching right down in there for a fight.
Goodness.
Well, that's what I think a decoy allows you to do. It's like you can turn those spots that traditionally calling would be very ineffective because they can see. You've now given them a focal point that totally shifts their mind away from what I think people typically run into, which is calling doesn't work. You know, the call gets them there. That's the other thing that's very interesting. So like, I'm not saying you guys will, but if you do, so like episode 5, what we just launched Chasing November, it's October 18th. You know, Mike is the lull, like we were joking around with, right? They spot this buck come out first. He's thrashing a tree, doing his thing, working a scrape. And Mike's watching this deer, and all of a sudden he turns back behind him, and just demeanor totally changes. And I think that where I'm going with this is like, calling to me is effective at all times of the year, pending you can, you know, react and read and really make decisions based on what you're seeing unfold. So this buck, you know, gives away something else is coming, walks off, you know, he's like scraping away, but he's very timid. He's clearly not going to check out whatever's behind him. It's the buck that ends up Mike's kills. So buck comes out, works the same, bigger deer does, works same scrape, and just pushes off this other deer. And when most instances, most people will just watch the deer walk away and be like, dang it, man. Mike right away was like, I need to give him something. And he got really aggressive all of a sudden. Buck's walking, through some taller grasses. Now he hits the food plot. And you can imagine if you're walking through, foot tall green
loud.
plot, a lot of sound. I mean, he just starts going, rah, 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 rah. He snore wheezes at him. And even though his buck's going to posture, Mike's watching him the whole time. And you can see on the video, his ears, right? I mean, they heard it. And buck comes back 30 minutes later to the base of the tree looking. Now, the only reason it works is because you cannot see off that plot. And that's one of the reasons why he has to stand there is you can't see out, behind it. He has to come through. It's right on the edge of food plot, some, a tree and some, thinner woods along the edge. And then it gets super thick with your canary grasses and river bottom. And it was just enough, for him to come and have to check it out. And they can just pinpoint it. I mean, it's crazy. Like you see it time and again. It's like those bucks know exactly where a sound came from. And I think that once you start to, again, go back and think, what is his reaction? What's he seeing? What's he thinking? You can pick those stands a lot more effectively, for different situations and tactics that you might use. And I don't know if you guys can do that in the big woods. I don't know.
Yeah.
How.
We can now that all those cedar tops are laying there. I mean, it's a rat's nest, buddy. Graham, like that stand I hung off the side of the hill, that's a graze pot for it because if they're walking through those cedar tops, they can't see but 5 foot in front of them. And it's like we had Cody Kelly on. He was talking about calling because he loves calling. And he said, Jason Heathcote calls me crazy because I'll go find the X and I'll hang my stand 40 yards off the X because it's better for me to call.
Yeah, no, it's like food plot architecture. I mean, if you build a big square and they can step out and see, they're probably not going to move that much. Whereas, you see guys that'll have turkey foots or set them up where it goes around a tree line. I mean, they're very curious. They want to see what's going on, and I think you can pick a lot of spots based on, again, thinking like a buck based on time of year. What's he worried about? What's he thinking about? Compared to this looks like a good stand for me.
Yeah. Yep. All right, boys. Well, I got to go in about 15 minutes. So why don't you two hit him with some rapid fire questions? Let's see what y'all got. I'm going to watch.
I'm having to do it on my phone. I can't look at nothing.
All right. I'll start off, Graham. Go-to tree stand snack.
Go-to tree stand snack? Man, I'm a sucker for I don't know. Trail mix. I'll say trail mix. Okay. I don't really eat a lot.
That's like
I'm the same way. I hate eating.
I don't like things that have a bunch of smell. Like beef jerky is my favorite thing in the world to eat, or beef sticks or something. But you open up one of those things and it's just like,
no Christmas tree, no Pop-Tart.
Dude,
he's worried about his girlish figure apparently.
I'm not a big snacker for whatever reason. I drink way too much coffee. I mean, that's where my unhealthy vice is. I always have coffee. So super hypocritical of the smell thing, but coffee is for sure my go-to.
Yeah, I mean, how can you not have coffee?
I don't drink coffee, and people think I'm crazy. So
yeah, you are. Now you're weird now.
Yeah. Calling myself out on this one.
It's all good.
Yeah.
You kind of touched on it. You said one specific buck sounds like early season, late season. Just killing any mature deer, you got to pick one: early season, rut, late season. What are you choosing and why?
In general, I feel like if it's just a mature buck, I'm going to choose the rut. I mean, because that, to me, levels the playing field. In Iowa, if you've got a doe, you got a chance. I think there's a lot of factors that determine whether early or late you're going to have deer, specifically food, which is what a lot of people maybe don't have access to. So I would go the rut.
Yeah.
Archery or gun?
I'd have to say archery. I mean, not in any way, shape, or form, judging gun hunting. It's just where I've grown up. I mean, hunting the best time of the year is with a bow. And I mean, once you get, a taste of success with bow hunting, I think you learn a lot when you have to get closer. So if somebody's trying to become a more well-rounded hunter, I'd say archery is the way to do it.
fixed or mechanical?
I shoot a mechanical broadhead. I mean, it's amazing the opinions of like this is right and this is wrong. I think shoot whatever the heck you're most confident with. I've had very good luck with mechanical broadheads, and that's what
I don't even
I'll shoot for
broadhead
the future.
tune.
Yeah,
I just shoot mechanical. I'm like, oh, that'll be close. Close enough.
yeah.
What are like the
Terrible to say, but
What are like the one or two pieces of hunting equipment, and we'll say, equipment is a very loose term, pieces of equipment that you use that you feel like significantly has increased your chances at being successful?
paper towel so you don't have to use a sock or go back to the cabin.
Yeah.
Or
No, I
leaves,
mean, I think Onyx probably the most impactful tool. I mean, I know that sounds probably stupid being it's technology, but in the permission world that I live in, a lot of the places I have wouldn't have maybe had access to being able to hunt them without that.
Yeah.
And then two, I mean, a rangefinder. I mean, as dumb as it sounds, I mean, my ability to show up and hunt brand new spots without, having to put prior scouting in or pinpoint ranges. I feel like that's a huge overlooked. I mean, that's what allows me to show up and do these things confidently. Especially like Iowa public land, you can't trim anything, you can't cut lanes, so you're kind of at the liberty of where your different shots present themselves, especially if you're showing up in the dark. So a good rangefinder that's reliable is probably. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure Fred Bear didn't need it, but Josh Sparks does. So
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I'd have to probably put Evercom in there because I can't tell you. Like I said, there's no such thing as perfect access. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a deer walk behind my tree and cut my track, but not totally figure out what it was. Pause for a couple seconds, look around, and then just go back to what they were doing because I had Evercom on my boots.
I can completely agree with that. I mean, like when you start talking about what took decoying to the next level for us, Evercom. I mean, those guys, once you get to hear Doug's story and really all the different things that they do, I mean, it's the best stuff.
I filmed I used some of y'all's stuff in their commercial. I did their commercial for them this year.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
I got to go to the deer farm and check it out.
It's legitimate, man. I mean, like we have a couple new mock scrapes rolling with the Evercom. I mean, you can use it in a lot of different ways to improve your hunt for sure.
Yeah. It's not bulletproof, just like any scent control device, apparatus, spray is not bulletproof, but all of them add together in a system to be game changers. But I think for me, that one's probably the biggest game changer out of the lot because you got better chance of covering your scent than you do eliminating it because you're breathing, you got cells falling off your body all the time. You're better off covering it up than you are trying to eliminate it because you can't eliminate it.
I'd agree with that.
We'll go back to the slightly controversial topics. What are your views on cell cams? Are they good? Good for hunting? Bad for hunting?
I think cell cameras are net positive, personally. I mean, I think that there's a lot of arguments to, a positive yield of less pressure on properties of deer getting to just remain undisturbed for a lot of parts of the year. I think that it allows a lot of guys who maybe traditionally wouldn't feel like they were as, accessible to their properties, have a way to get there. A lot of my buddies, they check cameras an hour away. They're in a different phase of life. They get to see the pictures of their property that they're paying for. Like anything, I think it can be abused, and obviously it can certainly impact your hunting negatively if you rely on it as, this is what I'm going to follow. I think it's a tool and it's information to be interpreted. I'm a little unsure with the whole live views. That to me seems, I feel it's very hard for me to ever take a stance on technology because there's always a limit, right? Like if I'm going to shoot a compound, the guy that shoots a recurve is going to have a problem with it. If it's a cell camera, well, the cell cam's the issue. Live view, it's illegal to use in Iowa during hunting season. You can't, technically speaking in Iowa, and you could go down a rabbit hole of this very gray law, but if you use a cell cam photo to make a hunting decision in Iowa while you're hunting, you're breaking the law, which is not too hard to go and watch a hunting show where they're like, well, we just got pictures of him. Let's go hunt there. If you're out of the woods, if you're in your truck, if you're not actively hunting and you look at cell cams, it's legal. So it is a very interesting line there. But in general, I'd say net positive.
Is it legal to use them, like if you're trapping, you put out coyote traps and you put it on coyote trap lines so you can check your traps remotely? Is that legal or not?
There's no verbiage that applies to coyotes. It's specifically for deer hunting or turkey hunting. It falls under
trap, and I was thinking about that. I was like, man, that'd be great if I was a trapper. I just put cell cams on every set I got, and then that's how you check your trap lines.
Yeah. No, I mean it technically falls under the electronic transmission law. Like you can't use walkie-talkies, you can't communicate. So if I'm in the stand, Clayton can't call me and say, "Hey man, the buck's out in that field." You know, there can be no communication with electronic to help aid in the hunt. They threw cell cams under that. So, but I mean, you know, guys are able to learn a lot. I mean, they're also, like I said, I think the biggest net positive for me is you just don't have to go on your property, walk around, tromp around, and push deer around all the time. What's your guys' take on that? I'm curious on that one. I guess I'm not asking questions.
Yeah, I think I would say net positive for sure. I think it comes down to the individual using them. Like, you know, hunting in general, obviously there's tons of laws and regulations for each state, but like at some point it's self-policing almost.
Yes.
So you just kind of have to make the decision of, hey, is this ethical? Like, is this, you know, something I want to, you know, do? But I would agree net positive.
Especially net positive for someone like me that lives in Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean,
I'm 1,000 miles away from where I hunt.
Yeah.
And I might not be able to get into the woods until November, so
Yeah.
hopefully.
I was going to say, hopefully
hopefully.
October is real busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you ain't
That'd
kidding
be
about that.
the idea.
Dude, don't tell me you're a Cardinals fan, Josh.
It's the only baseball game I ever went to growing up. I don't really have a preferred MLB team, if we're being honest. I mean,
Now it's the Reds.
it is. That's right. Cincinnati all day. Yeah. No, that's pretty cool. I mean, to get to that level of anything, I mean, that is a testament to a lot of hard work. So,
Yeah.
congratulations on doing that.
Yep.
Are you a big saddle guy, Josh?
I recently have started to use it. You know, I for many years hang and hunted, and then you know we met the guys at Latitude 2 years ago, and you know for a long time I just it wasn't that I ever had any quote unquote issues with it. It was just very uncomfortable with the idea of having to, when you just look at it from afar, there's a lot of moving pieces to it. You know, you think that it's a very strange like thought process, but it almost felt like it would be more unsafe. You know, and now that I've, you know, just forced myself to do it and really experience the, I hate to use the word freedom, but I mean, it's like the mobility it gives you is a different level, you know, and I think that is this something that you show up and do? Absolutely not. But yeah, I mean, I think that this year, majority of what we'll be doing is, I mean, this is why I could put it. I'm still going to hunt out tree stands if we can find the right spots, like, but to figure them out, that definitely would be hunting out saddles.
Yep. I don't know.
Clayton's not sold on saddles. So.
There's something about just having that stand there already. I just
ask
walk right
him.
into
Ask
it.
him what he did the first sit he ever had in the saddle. Ask him what happened.
Probably
shot a doe.
What'd you do? Yeah,
I've only
you
sat in a
killed
saddle
something.
once. I killed a doe. Yeah. But if there was a lock on there, I still would have killed a doe.
For me,
Doesn't matter. Your first sit in a saddle, you killed something.
it's definitely, I feel like, gives you more options. You know, the amount of trees that, you know, and again, a little bit different scenario. We're always trying to fit two guys on a tree, right? There's a lot of spots, and now all of a sudden I've been able to go, this is very viable versus hanging two tree stands in that spot would be, just isn't. You know, you have to hide things a little bit differently.
I'm laughing because Jeff just posted on YouTube their Iowa episode, and someone commented, "What's with the third stand in that tree?"
Yeah.
And there's Jeff, there's a cameraman, and there's a stand next to the cameraman stand.
We like to hang out, man.
It's a great platform to set stuff down on.
We're bringing that camaraderie back.
And then there's just the mobile aspect of it. You know, I think that is really hard to. If I'm running a saddle setup, it is lighter than my sticks that I usually run. You know what I mean? Like the full setup is. Now, granted, they're a different stick, but I don't know. It's it's different. I understand. Like, don't get me wrong. There's nothing better than sitting in a tree stand all day. Now, one thing that, like, again, I'm not trying to like just product plug here, but like Latitude came out with a bigger platform, and that is something I'm very much looking forward to, because I will say that's been the biggest adjustment. I fidget a lot in the tree with my feet, and having to sit on that little platform was definitely not working to my favor, you know. But this thing's like somewhere in the middle of a tree stand in the saddle, so I'm excited to use that.
My problem is half of them don't even fit my shoe size on the whole thing. So
Yeah, well, you know.
No, I'd encourage people to, certainly seek it out as an option. And I know there's so many different, trade shows now and, expos where people are, and there's a lot of information about it. It's just another tool. It's like you were mentioning, Clayton, Conquest. I mean, everything, as you mentioned, it's a bigger part of the formula of success. And the more options you give yourself, I think the more success you can find.
And becoming efficient with them.
Yeah.
So, all right, boys. Well, I have to run. I got to go pick up the kiddos at school.
There you go.
Mr. Mom.
So, Josh, we really appreciate your time. It was fun having you on here, buddy. We'll have to do this again.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys more than you know. I apologize I didn't have great concrete answers. I mean, I'm a little rusty in answering all these things. Well,
listen, I was also in the space of editing reels, so like all these questions were just like popping in my head left and right.
I just killed all of your ideas and engagement.
I was like,
dude.
I don't know, they just, the creative energy keeps going.
Yeah, no,
just rolled over today for some reason.
I love it. I learned some stuff. I mean, Zach Graham, it's great to meet you guys.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Josh.
Nice to meet you too, man.
Hope you all have a great season, both baseball and hunting. So.
Yes, sir. Thank you, buddy.